first session of the new year, except for our special meeting, which was earlier. Thank you for being here, and all board members are present. Let's stand for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's always nice to have special recognitions, and I think we have a Reed student that we're going to hear about tonight. Dr. Ritter?
Yes, Dr. Harrell, please. I think it's a teacher.
Reed's a teacher, sorry.
She looks like it. She looks like
yeah.
it's, no, I don't. She looks like it's student.
My mistake. It even says it right.
Well, good evening. We do have a teacher to celebrate today or this evening, and I'm very excited to have her and her principal here with us this evening. Natalie Schwartz, who's a Reed Middle School math teacher, was named the Missouri Middle School Math Educator of the Year. And here to introduce her and to share a little bit more information about that particular award is Dr. Debbie Grega, the principal of Reed Academy. Dr. Grega?
Look how they dress alike. Major impact.
I like that.
We planned that. No, we really didn't. We were very excited at Reed Academy to receive news that our own Miss Schwartz had received the Middle School Math Educator of the Year award with the Missouri Council of Teachers of Mathematics. It is based on her tireless efforts to educate students and make math fun. I don't think there's any other teacher, or there might be. There's only one Miss Schwartz at Reed Academy. She runs up and down the halls saying how much she loves math. And, you know, I was not one of those kids that loved math, but she just definitely gets kids excited about learning math, and it was so awesome that they recognized her. They actually called me. This council did. This organization called me and said, please, we want Natalie to win this. Please write a letter. And, of course, I was happy to. So this was a big surprise to her when she found out that Friday night, and so we were just very excited and want to officially congratulate you in front of the Board of Education.
Don't go away. Tell us how you do it. How do you motivate the kids?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't. Well, I'm just big at helping the kids find their passion in mathematics, to talk about it. There's lots of communication going on in my classroom, critical thinking, just things that really would make a kid understand mathematics. So I try to always get them talking to one another and having good discussions and really thinking critically about what we're learning about. And I don't know, we read Cat in the Hat today to get ready for an algebraic expressions unit tomorrow. And you should have seen my class rapping Cat in the Hat. It was, well, we were trying to rap Cat in the Hat. It was really funny. They were just watching me dancing with them and just having fun with our kids, so.
Charge admission?
What?
Charge admission?
Admission, you charge.
Charge admission. No, I don't charge admission. Next week we'll be doing Barbie Bungee in algebra if you'd like to join us.
What is Barbie Bungee?
I love it.
What is it?
Lots of fun things to do in math. You can picture Barbie flying out of a third-story window. That's what we'll be doing in algebra. So.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank
and
you very
thanks for
much.
coming tonight. Our strategic discussion already occurred an hour or so ago, and I want to again thank staff and board members for their participation in that. I don't think we have any public comments to address agenda items. Let's go to our first information item, which is the school calendar. Dr. Harrell.
Thank you. Annually, I come before the board to discuss the calendar for the following year. I wanted to take a quick moment this year to recognize some folks who have been greatly involved in actually the development of the calendar and have managed the calendar committee for this year, and that's Dr. Jay Anderson, who is our Elementary Director of Operations. Dr. Anderson, if you'd stand, please. And Dr. Julie Steiger, who is our Director of Secondary Operations. Dr. Steiger. Thank you both for your work. beginning in 1997, we started coming to the Board of Education with 3 years in order to help with planning and get a rough idea of what those school calendars might look like. You do have in front of you the 2013-14, 2014-15, and 2015-16 calendars. The one that we'll be discussing specifically this evening, and again at the regular session, obviously will be the 2013-14. The other two are simply in draft form. The 13-14 calendar committee used parameters derived from legislative mandates, best practices, and stakeholder input in developing of the calendar. These guidelines help us to formally adopt the subsequent school year calendar on an annual basis, and the adoption also allows for the opportunity to make changes in built-in snow days, staff development days, or other modifications. What you will notice with this particular calendar, it is extremely similar to the calendar that we experienced this school year. This was the first school year that we have moved the calendar up in the school, the start of school up in the calendar. We started school on August 15th, I believe, this year, and this is for August 14th of next year. So we felt like we were very fortunate with snow days in the last school year, and so we still had a decent summer break to get things started here, and this allows us now to end school on May 15th, assuming that there is no snow days. Again, that's always the assumption, as early as. We do use a 4-day week in certain weeks for staff development. Because of that, we are allowed to make adjustments to the number of days in our school calendar and adjust that to 170 student contact days. That was 2 years ago. We made that adjustment. We still have to meet the 1,044 hours, and this calendar does meet that. And I would address any questions.
Mr. Lee.
A couple questions, or one comment too. I've heard one complaint about the calendar so far, and that was starting back January 2nd.
Yes.
And basically my response has been, well, get back to me May 15th when you're out of school. Everybody else is in school, and then tell me that you were sad that you went back on January 2nd. But that's the only complaint, and that's not a comment or recommendation at all, but I've heard that from several people. But it was spur of the moment more than anything.
And I'm sorry, sir, if I may just address that just quickly. One of the issues, when we build a calendar, we really end up having to build it almost backwards. You start kind of with the end in mind. And with spring break coming at the end of third quarter, the quarters having to be a certain number of days in length. To move that back, there's also several comments on our Facebook post now about not coming back on the 2nd for next year either, but coming back on I believe it's the 6th, be the following Monday. Well, then everything moves back. Spring break changes. We don't have enough number of days in the quarter, so there's a lot of factors. You know, on face value, when you look at that, well, you just add days at the end of the year. It really isn't that simple, and so that is one of those issues that we do occur. But we do look at that. I want to make sure the public and the board understands that we do look at those issues.
Well, that's not a complaint from this.
Oh, I know. I just want to make sure that.
I heard from a couple of staff that they liked the Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with a break, because they would have drove them insane. They said if they had to have them for 5 days coming right out of the holidays.
Well, it's kind of coming
So
back and ease
there's a
back
plus.
into it.
We'll hear more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
My second question was, I didn't see listed who made up the committee. What was the I don't need names. Who made
The committee is made up of students, parents, and then representatives from all of the different departments within the district. So transportation would have been represented, custodial, school police, obviously the educational operations component of it.
Okay, so it's broad.
Yes, it's a
Parents and
standing
students.
committee, and it does have parents and students on it.
Mr. Hosmer.
Justin, the Robertson calendar, is that beginning this 13?
The Robertson Balance Calendar is really being dealt with as a separate issue, and Dr. Hackenworth and his team are going to be coming to you in February.
Okay. All right.
More for Dr. Impact of Governor Nixon's hand grenade, or whatever you want to call it, at least kind of thrown out on extending the school days to 180 days and do that. I know it's just out there sort of as a trial balloon maybe. I don't know how serious that is, but I know it could have an impact on. Have we looked at what that would do or could do, or?
Well, actually, interestingly enough, many of the conversations we've had over the last couple of years, you know, there's been many factors that drove us from a good vehicle of professional learning to budgetary issues to support of our teachers, been many factors that drove the calendar down to that 170-day calendar. That is absolutely as minimum as we can get. It's tight, and be honest with you, Mr. Lee, it's uncomfortable oftentimes. I sweat the snow days because one snow day throws everything off for us. We're that tight in our schedule. That, and just instructionally, philosophically, I think that we've always been looking at re-expanding that calendar, wanting to go back into more days. That's always been part of the conversation. It's about when will be a timely component to do so. Now, do I have a specific plan laid out, or has the committee looked at what it would mean to go from 170 to 180? No, sir, I do not.
Or have I figured out how they're going to pay for the other 6 days?
Exactly.
My response to that is, state, let us alone. Give us more money, then you could talk.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Fund the formula.
yeah, from the formula, then we'll talk. But anyway, sorry.
And you'll have this for us to vote on?
At the regular session, yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
And we will, because we are starting more than 10 days prior to the first Monday in September, we were required to have a special meeting for discussion of that, which we will do prior to the regular meeting on the 22nd.
Thank you. See, we have second reading on 6.01, which are the Board of Education policies that Mr. Renner and Ms. Luton went over. Any further comments on any of the policies? And those will be up for final vote next meeting. Board of Education Policy JHHH, Dr. Hackenworth.
Good evening. I bring to you the following action item for deletion of the Board of Education Policy JHH. It's the Underprivileged School Children's Fund. This is the first reading. The pertinent facts you should have before you is that the Underprivileged School Children's Fund was actually established in 1952 to provide resources for Bailey Nursery as well as for health needs of students enrolled in Springfield Public Schools. The Underprivileged School Children's Fund would be able to expand services and potential donations if placed under the auspices of the Foundation of Springfield Public Schools Foundation, which has a 501c3 status. The deletion of the board policy, JHH, has been approved by legal counsel, and the copy of the policy is attached, and so our recommendation would be that the board approves the deletion of policy JHH for first reading. Do you have any questions?
So the fund wouldn't go away, it's just...
The fund does not go away, it's just the policy that goes away. So we would still have the fund, yes. And we've had discussions with United Way as well, and they're certainly in favor of us moving in this direction.
I'm assuming the foundation is more than anxious to take this over.
Yes, Jana, don't you think so? Yes, we've had discussions with her as well, yes.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
There are several routine action items for your review, and we'll vote on those in block next meeting. We have one public comment to address non-agenda items, and let me remind our speaker that the comments are limited to 3 minutes and will be timed. It's inappropriate to address the board about individual students or staff members by name in open meeting. If you have concerns about these, you can address them through the administrative supervisors. Ms. Kepling.
Hello, everyone. I just attended your meeting. It was very informative. I learned a lot. I'm very much in favor of the levy. As far as the bond is concerned, I didn't hear a lot about the preschool students, and you obviously know why I'm here. I know you plan to ask for, I thought it was $8 million in the news, but it looks like $78 million bond issue, part of which is to be used to create a new elementary school and to create classrooms to accommodate student population growth. Perhaps I would be more sympathetic with our district if we were treating our preschoolers with disabilities fair. November 27, 2012, you voted to create a second separate preschool for students with disabilities. Our district's new practice is to remove preschool students with disabilities from our neighborhood elementary schools while granting other preschool students, the Title I Wonder Years programs, the privilege of having classrooms in our neighborhood elementary schools. Imagine the space that would be created if we moved all of our preschoolers out so that they're together. Title I preschool school students have classrooms in 16 of our elementary schools. And I say Title I, the Title I Wonder Years preschool students have classrooms in 16 of our schools. And we have 5 what I would call token classrooms remaining in our neighborhood elementary schools for kids with disabilities so that we can provide a continuum of services which is required by federal law. So with the 16 plus the 5, that's 21 classrooms. And if all the preschool students were placed together in an outside facility, and maybe that could be leased like our separate centers are currently going to be leased, then that would provide an additional 21 classrooms in our neighborhood elementary schools. And by what we heard today, that would be about 450 students, which would be about the size of a school. While this option would cost our district money, it would right the wrong we have done to separating our students with disabilities, and it would remove the discrimination that we now practice. And the cost would be much less than building a new school, which I believe was $18.2 million, especially if we leave properties like we do for our separate centers, or lease, I'm sorry, if we lease them. I urge the board and the community to consider this option, or at least come to some kind of compromise. I mean, we're looking at building a new school, but I didn't hear anything about a preschool classroom in that for kids with disabilities in that school. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to legislative update. What do we know so far from Jeff City?
That's good.
For a week.
That's good.
Yeah.
I do feel that there is an honest commitment to education, but there's not a whole lot they could do as far as finances at this point. I don't think we're going to see much change there. So,
I know some of us weren't able to attend the legislative reception. How was that? How did that go?
I thought it went really very, very well. In fact, Jay Wasson impressed us all as far as the tax credit discussion. In fact, I think he's taken that as his top priority. But really, the new legislators, you could tell they were as green as you could find them, but there's a lot of energy there. I thought Sonia Murray, I forget what her last, anyway, and then also, what's his name from, I'm sorry? Jeff Messinger came across fairly strong, I thought. And then there was also a gentleman from the South. Len Morris, yeah. I was impressed with him.
About half of our representatives were there. I think there was serious commitment to tax credit reform by especially the incumbents.
Right.
And I think the incumbents pointed out the obvious, that we would like to have more money as much as you would, and if we had it, we would give it to you, but don't count on it.
Yeah, the tax credit, though, they were very clear to make the distinction between the charitable, yes, the split between the two. And so I think there's going to be a direct effort there to take care of that. So that's what our feel was. There was some follow-up. I met with Eric Burleson, who wasn't there, and we had a conversation. And I think he's interesting in that, of course, I think there is some political strings attached, but I do think he tries to pay attention to what our needs are. So I think he wanted to learn more than he wanted to contribute to in that conversation.
Good. Jerry, have you heard any further talk on the potential guns in schools legislation and MSBA's activities in that?
I think we're going to be talking about that in about a week and a half. I know I haven't heard any support from virtually anybody of putting guns in classrooms. It obviously is a hot topic right now, but I don't sense any support for arming teachers. I'm not speaking for anybody else. There's none here, but so I think the safety is going to be a huge issue. It won't be the only one, but it will be a huge issue in the legislature this year. I don't know how long it will stay at the front.
Well, while we're on that topic, I did ask Dr. Harrell, along with our security, to kind of give us just a real general feel of what what's happened since Newtown. And if that's okay, we could take
yeah.
that opportunity at this time. So Dr. Harrell, if you would, please.
Mr. Tucker assured me on the way in that the school board was safe in good hands, so that
Well, obviously, the tragedy at Newtown and other tragedies that over recent years continue to be in the forefront of our minds as we look at security issues in our buildings. And there are multiple areas that we are looking at, and we are studying, talking, and meeting about at this point to make responding to. We've had multiple immediate responses. Most of those are in the process areas. You know, we're reminding principals reminding staffs, what are the things that we need to be doing in the building to make sure that doors are secure, doors aren't propped open. We do have issues and concerns that we're having large talks about on our entryway and accessibility. You know, we have 59 sites that we're looking at on how we can address those issues and concerns, manage the building appropriately in a safe and secure manner, and still obviously be a public building at the same point. So there are a lot of issues that are going on. We have met with the team, not only including our school police, but also including building services and other members of Mr. Chodes and his department in ways that we can address issues. We are currently in the middle of a audit of processes that of accessibility issues, and we'll be coming back on that as how we can study. We have a 5-year plan that school police developed for me 2 years ago and works with me on to meet needs of their particular area and how they can better serve. Also, we've tried to increase our visibility with our officers, our patrol officers, and just to make sure that we're there at dismissal and those with our officers that are on patrol at dismissal times as often as we can. We currently have a 21-officer police force.
How large has that police force been at kind of the higher end?
At one time, we were at 22 officers. We did not replace an officer due to budget area issues that left us a few years ago. We do not consider ourselves at a full level at this point. You know, one of the conversations has been brought up, and we see it nationally, you know, about an officer in each building. Have we had conversations about that? We have. Many issues obviously that arise in that would require an additional around 39, 40 officers.
Just a clarification, the Newtown school was locked, right? I mean, the perpetrator shot his way into that school, right?
That would, and that's another lesson that is learned. It's a, you know, how we had to learn it is extremely painful. But yes, there were a double set of doors at Newtown, but they were glass, very attractive, very aesthetic. You know, absolutely, it slowed to some extent, but that's a lesson that is learned there.
Yep. I was impressed with some of the information. We received from Rhonda Mayman on some of the counseling and mental health. As we know, that's a huge part of the problem, and the fact that our counselors are trained to recognize issues and hopefully respond to issues preventatively is.
You know, that is critical, Dr. Prater. I couldn't have said it any better. You know, to give, regardless of the age of the issue, but obviously dealing with our students, I think that's what we, in the past, have considered kind of a primary threat and concern, an area for them to share feelings and emotions and get the help they need. So yes, guidance and counseling plays a huge role in that.
Any questions for Dr. Harrell?
I know that MSBA's Center for Education Safety is just swamped right now with calls from districts to do audits and safety audits and security audits, which is a good thing, but in some respects.
If I may say, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but bottom line, it's the culture, and it's the culture that provides the peace and tranquility that needs to be there, and it has a lot to do with nonviolent type of communications that needs to be throughout a community that creates that safe environment. And so we can put up all the different things, and we need to do a lot of different things to improve the safety, but overall it's the culture that you have in your community that invites that, and so we got to be careful of that. Anyway.
Great. Thank you both.
I I got a future issue.
Go right ahead.
Salute.
Yes.
It's invite all of you to salute, and I believe the chamber. Is there anybody here from the chamber? I believe the chamber has a bus going, and that's always fun. But it's on Wednesday, January the 23rd, from 4:30 to 6:30, and we last year I think they had just over 300 people there. It's a fun time, and it's a excellent opportunity to meet legislators from all over the state. And so anyway, hopefully as many of you can make it as possible. I know I'll be going, and Dr. Prater, I believe you're going to go up early. And so, okay, I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other issues that we need to, Ms. Cowan?
I'd just like a clarification from Dr. Hackenworth, because I know when we were discussing the Early Childhood Center several months ago, I specifically asked for some information on the number of Wonder Years classrooms that we had in our elementary sites. Could you verify that, just so we're all on the same page?
We currently have 6 Wonder Years classrooms in our existing elementary.
And how many early childhood classrooms?
Early childhood special education.
Uh-huh.
We have 5 in the buildings, 13 in the current center.
So we have 5 early childhood classrooms in our existing buildings and 6 Wonder Years?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other issues? Mr. Hosmer?
Something that came up recently has been this Student First release. Students First, which is the Michelle Rhee, the former chancellor of the Washington, D.C. schools. She's got an organization that put together a list, and it got some press, and it was reading about it. It gives grade levels to all the states and how they're doing on what she considers education reform. I am very suspicious of Ms. Rhee from seeing her tenure with the Washington, D.C. schools. But it was interesting. I read an article that delved a little deeper into that report, and it was interesting that one of the things they noted in the report is the top 5, the states that are ranked top 5 in her report are not in the top half of states in reading and math, according to the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress. That the top-rated state in her report is the state of Louisiana, which ranks 49th in reading and 47th in math. Interestingly, coming in at number 4 was Michelle Rhee's prior school, Washington, D.C. Even though Washington, D.C., according to the NAEP, comes in dead last in reading and math. So the school that she left is dead last. So this got play in the press as if it was just a objective report on the state of education across the United States, and it couldn't be anything further from that. So, again, it's one of these things important for us to understand that this stuff is out there, and if you don't look at it within the context of what it is, which is a narrow, focused, ideological propaganda tool to try to do things that Michelle Rhee thinks, are good for the United States, and God help us that the D.C. school system comes to Springfield. But again, it was interesting to me that the objective results didn't seem to be factored in whatsoever in the report. I wanted to make sure that people were aware of that and that we were aware of that as well.
Thank you very much.
It's a good read.
Yeah, I just read the Missouri part that Mr. Lee shared with us, and it's amazing how many facts are kind of missed in the process.
Well, don't confuse me with results. Is basically what it is. It's dealing on ideology. It's dealing on policies and regulations of the state. It has nothing to do with how are my students performing.
Well, and one of the things is whether a state switches their teachers' retirement from a pension fund to a 401k.
Right. It's all political ideology.
Boy,
it is.
you talk about opening a can of worms and doing bad things for teachers in the state of Missouri. That's a good way to do it.
Point well taken.
We do need a motion to meet in executive session to discuss personnel matters as provided in Section 610-021-3 and 13 RSMO.
So moved.
Mrs. Callen,
Second.
by Mr. Lee. All in favor, aye. Thank you.
Oh, you vote aye.
As you guys are voting, don't forget about the annual chamber annual meeting, Friday, January 25th. I forgot about that.
Shut down.
Reception's at 6, dinner's at 7.
Said aye, so.
I know. I can get back in, I think.
I'll be in Washington.
I'll be at the chamber dinner.
Denise, you'll be there?
I don't know.
Chris, you'll be there?
The what?
5th?
Yeah, the conversation.
I think it got shut. Several was shut down. It never came up to vote.
Gene, are you going to be there on the 25th?
At the chamber, no, but I, John might. But I think he's already, probably at the Empire Bank table.
Oh, I bet he is. Yeah. Andy, you going to be there on the 25th? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, and Bruce,
Did Bruce?
Bruce Callen will be there.
4 will be there.